Um, some of you all might not know this, but Uncle Bill had an affair with another woman and produced a son, Billy Mullins. And it broke Aunt Margie's heart, you can imagine. And he, one of the stories that she would tell, he'd come up at Christmas time to see she and Mary Rose. Mary Rose was like 6 or 7. And he gave Mary Rose some kind of music box and gave Aunt Margie money. And Aunt Margie said, "No, he gave you the money and I get the music box." I mean, she was a little jealous. That's all there was to it. And
This was Uncle Bill or Billy that gave
Uncle
them?
Bill,
Uncle Bill,
her
okay.
husband, yeah. Well, they were divorced, but
Right,
he came
right.
by to see him. And Mary Rose never, ever talked about her daddy. Never. Uncle Bill was, like I told you, was one of the sweetest people you'd ever want to meet. Gentle and first family, I mean, lace curtain Irish. But he was, I think maybe the divorce and all this with, having a child out of wedlock and having an affair. He didn't stay with that woman. They left, and I mean, they broke up and she remarried, or she married. Anyway, Uncle Bill ran gin, I guess, from Chicago to Louisville, and he had a hole in his cheek where a bullet had gone in, and they shot at him. I guess the police coming from Chicago, and so, like I say, he was no goody two shoes, but he was a wonderful person. I mean, he's just. I think now this is hindsight, and that being separated and divorced from Aunt Margie, just he didn't care. He was wild, and but then he settled down, and they remarried. Early 40s. They were remarried in church, and but he told my grandfather something. He brought him a half a pint of whiskey when he came to visit them, and he said, "I need that more than you do, Pop." He said, "After I leave here, I'll need that liquor." So I mean, it had to have an effect on him. It had to, but it all turned out well, and everybody loved Uncle Bill. I mean, he was. And then I had another Uncle Bill, Forge, and I liked him, but I was scared to death of him. He was just gruff, but he loved kids. I mean, he really was a sweet man, but he put the fear of God in children, that's all. So really, those two were my only uncles, Clarence and Theodore. They were like an aunt and uncle, but we were first cousins. And
Last name? Clarence and Theodore Crow.
Theodore and Clarence, they never had children. And I think they kind of adopted the Webers and the Forches.
What was their last name? Clarence and Theodore
Crow. They're the ones that he was a little boy when my mother went to live with him and Aunt Jenny and Mike. Aunt Jenny had a husband named, I can't think of his name. Anyway, he must have been a wonderful man, because she said, "Can I bring my two little sisters to live with us?" And he said yes. And he said, "As long as I have a crust of bread, they will have a crust of bread." So that was pretty nice for a brother-in-law to take in two small little girls, 3 and 5, and raise them. But he died very young, and so Aunt Jenny was left. She worked at Standard Gravier, and she made faucets out of sand.
American Standard.
American Standard, yeah. out on 7th Street, and she reeked of that smell. It was oil and sand that she worked with all day long. And she made a good living. She supported them. And, but, yeah, there was a lot of hardships. Poor Aunt Emily. When I think back about her, that had to be the saddest thing. I mean, that was in the days when they didn't have welfare or food stamps or help, with children. She was married to a man from Doherty was his name. He was connected with a boat down on the river. His family, I think, owned some kind of business down there, and or some kind of boat. I think, now I might be wrong about this, I think he drowned he was in I don't want to say this because I'm not sure. This is where I miss your mother. Seems like he had a fight with somebody, or somebody came on the boat and punched him and he drowned. And she was left a widow at 21 with a child I think was 9 months old. And they didn't know it at the time, but she was
Mentally handicapped.
Handicapped, yes. She didn't walk till she was 7. And the only reason she walked is that my grandfather, who was a carpenter by trade, built like a big playpen so she could stand up and hold on and walk the inside the playpen. She had no education whatsoever. In fact, the Mayo brothers came here down at 4th and River, and Aunt Emily took her.
Anna D, say her name.
Anna D was her name, and her name was Anna, but there was another Anna in the family, one of the Aunt Sarah's children. So they dignified. They called her Anna D, Anna Darty. And she took Anna D to see the Mayo brothers, and they broke Aunt Emily's heart. They said she's nothing but an imbecile. Well, now she was not an imbecile. They would have had teaching like they have now. They could have taught her. They could have. She sat there and did this all day long. And then when she died, when Anna D died, of course Aunt Emily was gone. The look on her face she was beautiful. All that stress and strain was gone out of her when she was dead. So we got a lot of people up in heaven. Aunt Emily for sure, and Anna D, and my mother. If my mother isn't up there, then you and I don't have a chance. So they were just good people, that's all. I mean, and my dad was a good person, but he was different. He had a little bit of wildness in him. I wish he could tell some of the stories that he shouldn't have told you kids, some of the ones he did. Like his grandfather, who owned the Opera Hotel. The captains would come in, the riverboat captains would come in, and they'd say, give me an extra light. I can't see to go up there. And he said, that's all you get, one lamp to go up there. And Daddy supposedly, now, yes, it probably is true. He took the riverboat captain up the steps, and when he got to the top of the steps, he blew the candle out. And he said, give me your money, or you'll have no light up here. And the captain yelled and hollered, this damn kid's trying to rob me. And Grandpa hollered up the steps, what's going on up there? And my dad said, oh, Grandpa, he just wants another candle. And I told him we couldn't give him 2 candles. So Daddy was, I shouldn't talk about the dead, but he was a little conniving, very much so. And, but he was honest as the day was long. I mean, he said, he grew, well, until he left this house, he got down on his knees and said his prayers every night. Some nights he couldn't get back up, but he was a good man.
Tell us another story about Grandpa. You know there are
Oh
tons of them.
gosh, I can't remember. Well, you heard about the time at the racetrack when Aga
Aga
Khan,
Khan.
Daddy went to the races, to the Derby every year, and he was he wasn't that old, but he was well, he was. I guess they felt sorry for him. They see this little old man could hardly come up the steps, and he was worn out. He had had a lot of drinks. That's probably why he was worn out. And they said, "Here, sit down here." And so Daddy told the story that he said, I sat in the box with them, and he said, they were nice as they could be to me. And he said, he had a lot of hair and he was funny looking. Well, here it was the Aga Khan. You know who that is? One of the leaders over in, Jack would know this, uh, over in Saudi Arabia, one of the richest men. Aga Khan, yeah.
Okay.
They had the picture of him in the paper the day after Derby. Hey,